Okay, so today I'm going to talk you through using Relight to prepare your images. So you should have received the link to the install. They provide a pretty comprehensive guidance as to how to install Relight. As I mentioned in kind of the write-up, the description of the workshop, some computers will have an issue with it, but it does tell you how to deal with that. So once you have Relight installed, it'll look like this. But that's not the first thing we're going to do, of course. So as you can see here, I have all of my images from the data capture, which hopefully I put that video up as well. And so I have about 78 images of that bit of paper that I recorded. So you'll notice that there are both JPEGs and NEF. So when I was taking photographs, I had my camera in both fine JPEG and RAW mode. So that's why there are those there. In theory, you can create an RTI from the original JPEG images, but we're going to avoid that today, just to show the whole process. So first rule of getting your data over, always copy, never cut. If you are clearing off your memory card, you can go and delete these later, but you never know if something's going to go wrong with the transferal process. So always copy. Okay, once you have all your images copied over, you want to split these up. So sort them by type. As I said, you want your original JPEGs separate folder. Used to be that you had to be careful about how you would name these folders, but as far as I'm aware, this isn't a problem in the Relight. It was a problem in the original software to create RTI, but RTI Builder, but not anymore. 76. Okay, so here are all our NEF files, and so to white balance these, if you choose to do so, so to white balance these in a batch kind of way, you might have your own way of doing this, but what I do is I use Camera Raw. See all our images here, and if I'm using my card to white balance, there we go. That's how I would name those, giving them a sensible name, and now it should be exporting these white balanced. I'll close all of these windows now, and now we are in the Relight GUI. This is what it looks like at the moment. To create a new project, you want to go to File, New Project, and then you navigate to where you have your images saved.
Now, even though there weren't any files visible, they've still all imported. And if you're not sure what to do, then you can go to the Help menu. So you can see now the next step is to add our sphere. And so to do that, I'll close this and I'll zoom in on our sphere. Click this little sphere button, and then to tell it where the sphere is, you want to really zoom in to get at the edges of the pixels if you can. And you're going to left double click along the edges of the sphere, and you only need to give it 3 points, and then this sphere that it's sussed out has appeared. And now we want to go to Edit and find highlights. Right, so what the software is doing now is it's looking through all 76 images. Because our camera didn't move and we had autofocus off, the sphere will be positioned in the same area of pixels in each photograph. So it will be able to find the highlights in that sphere for all the images because it's in the same location. And so now if you want to look through your images, you'll see there's a little green X that's appeared in the highlights. So just make sure those are all in the right place. If it turns out that one of your images is misaligned, it will warn you when you go to the next step that there's an image that didn't work. So we have verified our highlights, and now it's time to export our RTI. So I tend to use PTM, but you want to turn on RTI there, unless there's a specific online output you want to make. But I tend to use PTM. RTI is technically more accurate if you're using the normal map for something specific, but for PTM you tend to get more image viewing options, which is helpful for the type of research I do. So it just depends what you need it for. Either way, I tend to bump up the image quality to 100 because there's not really a point in going less as far as I know. But yeah, so now it is processing. And so if you open up RTI Viewer, I'll actually put a link somewhere for that. I know Relight is working on a web viewer, but I've not had much luck with it myself because I have RTI Viewer installed. And so now it's opening up the images here, or opening up the RTI here. Right, now that that's loaded in, you can see you can change the light position using this ball on the right hand side just by clicking and dragging. You might be able to start seeing one of the messages I've sort of impressed into the piece of paper. It might be a little upside down. Hint. But as I said, there are, because this is a PTM, there are more options for the settings you can use when looking at the images. Diffuse gain is generally a good one for sculpture. And this is the one we've got here, so hopefully you can see that message. That's a bit more difficult to make out than the other two. And then here's another message over in this corner. So as you can see, hopefully it's clear that you're able, even without an RTI dome, you can get a perfectly serviceable RTI file.
So just because I know I'm going to get a couple questions about what the difference is between the RTI and the PTM files, um, you use the same data set to generate both. You can see here that I've got one where I exported the PTM and one where I exported RTI instead.
And so I have the RTI open up in the RTI viewer, and you can see there are fewer options available. So technically, it's more accurate the normal map and things. But for what I do, the PTM is actually a little bit more useful. And so as you can see here, the PTM file has many more visualization options, some which are better for different things than others. So you really do have to just kind of play around with the settings when you have your own RTI data set and see which works best for your purposes. And as I said, it's the same data set either way. So it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, just exporting one file and then the other and then trying both. I hope that clarifies that aspect, and I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I will obviously go through a lot of this again when we meet in Dublin, but until then, see you then.